So where were we?
Everybody can hear us? We're here. We exist. There's not a hideous time delay. I'm waiting for the audience. Yay! Thank you, Aldrich.
Get in.
Okay, all right, fine. We're here. We exist. So a quick note, everybody. Alasdair's still recovering from a cough, so you're gonna hear him coughing.
It'll sound a lot like that.
Throughout the evening. He's okay. The flu is gone. The fever's gone. It was not COVID. We took 2 tests apiece. That's all good. Oh my god, you guys have hype trained us already.
Oh
Yay,
my god.
thank you. So he's recovering. He's doing okay. I'm sorry in advance for the weird noise. There's going to be some coughing.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you introduce our special guest who's very anxious to get started on our amazing opening monologue tonight.
It gives me epic amounts of pleasure to introduce the incredible Premee Mohamed as this week's special guest. Premee works at Escape Pod and is an legitimate science genius in many, many ways.
And licks rocks.
Premee, yeah, we're talking about you. Yeah.
Licks rocks, has a favorite pipe.
Enjoys rocks, has a favorite pipe, and is one of the best authors of existential cosmic horror with jokes I have ever encountered.
Which we will spend a lot of time
We'll be spending a lot of time talking about that today. So without further ado, we're going to put our headphones on and introduce you to Premee.
Premee on the stream as soon as I can remember where the button is. Here we go. Ta-da, Premee!
Premee, you should know you're officially amongst your people. Literally the first response we have is sometimes rock licking is necessary for science.
Did they spell science correctly?
Yes.
Of course. Your people are in the chat, Premee. We're good to go.
My people, hello my people who are in the chat.
And
hi.
Lots of excellent comments for the glittery eyes as well. Very appreciative.
Looking very good today, Bug. I'm super impressed.
Thank you, Alasdair. And thank you guys for having me on this. I'm super excited to be here.
Our absolute pleasure, because, I mean, it's you, and you're amazing.
When was the last time we saw you? Was it in Dublin?
It was Dublin.
It was in Dublin. It was that last breakfast, I think.
You and Matt Dovey were doing your fantastic double act, which I will always remember. For folks in the chat, Matt Dovey is taller than Alistair. Like he's by several 6'3", inches. 6'4", and skinny as a beanpole. Premee Mohamed, bless your heart, I think you come up to my nipples. So when we
I'm about 5'1". Yeah, I was talking to Matt's belt.
Yeah, so you put the two of them together, and I literally took a photo that had Premee lovely framed, and I think we hit the top of Matt's waistcoat, and the caption for that photo was always, "First of all, how dare you?" It's one of my favorite photos from Dublin. I remember that. It's
such a great photo of you as well, because you're posed like forward science core to the future, and the background
Matt's
is just
torso.
A component of Mr.
It's not even, I don't even think we got like his neck, like it could be anybody.
I think it was like the top button on the waistcoat, and that was it.
I think it was like his button, yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to see if I can dig out that photo, because it's one of my favorites of the two of you. It's just so perfectly used.
Because you know approximately when it was posted, right? So
yeah, it would have been August 2019.
Yeah.
In the before times.
The before times.
In the long ago.
Yes.
Quick!
When
give us an opening monologue.
Take photos of people. Oh, I will give you an opening monologue. Okay, I can't see myself while I'm doing this, so hopefully I stay on stream and I don't act weird or anything.
Just 1 second, I'm gonna let the chat know.
Well,
oh, so sorry.
Okay. Oh, no worries.
Twitch still thinks we're playing the council. Well, Twitch is wrong. I'll have to fix that later. Sorry.
No worries.
I was just gonna say we do have a content warning for the opening monologue, just very lightly. We talk about COVID-19 in here. There's some swearing, and there are references to horror themes and mental health. There's a link in the chat where you can find the complete detailed content warnings if you need them.
It was written by me. Hello.
Yes, it was written by the Hugo-nominated Alasdair Stewart. We'll come on to all that. Yeah, that's a whole nother hour. That's my thing. Premee, I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Go forth.
Tell us about Gerard Butler.
Oh, no, that's okay. I will tell you about Gerard Butler.
You tell me about Gerard Butler.
I will enjoy this lovely photo that is here as well, where he's looking as Gerard Butler-y as possible. Extinction level Gerard. Editor's note. Spoilers. Discussion of COVID-19 pandemic. If I was to say to you, extinction level event, angst, and Gerard Butler, there's a good chance you build a movie in your head and it would look something like this. The big lad is some erratic genius who created some earth-saving technology. The man has defunded said technology, and now he lives in a swamp, looking sad. What? When he's called back to service, McLeonidas saves the world with his combination of growliness, being mildly bulletproof, and a relentless work ethic in the most hazardous of work environments. Shoot it, cut it, print it, and away we go. But 2020, when Greenland was originally due to be released, was not a normal year, and Greenland is not a normal Gerard Butler movie. It's directed by Rick Romanois, who also did Angel Has Fallen, the best entry in this particular gravity-based franchise. That might be down to it being the first one not burying the needle on the find, kind of racist, hella racist scale so far in the red it breaks the casing and starts yelling at you because you look foreign. Likewise, Chris Farling on script is a really good sign. He broke through with Buried, the oddest and nastiest movie Ryan Reynolds has ever done. Since then, he's had a string of well-regarded genre scripts produced, and this is definitely the most recent one. Along with their amiable goof of a leading man, the two have successfully created a movie which is absolutely bog-standard summer blockbuster fodder. From the point of view of an innocent bystander in 2020. Oof. John Garrity, Butler, does building science. He's also been unfaithful to his wife Allison, Morena Baccarin. The reason given being the pressures of jointly caring for their diabetic son Nathan, Roger Dale Floyd. Realistic but cringy.
Yeah.
Their life is enough. John and Allison are working on patching things up and host a viewing party for the near-Earth flyby of a comet. And then John gets a phone call. An automated government service tells him he and his family have been selected for places in an emergency shelter, which makes no sense as the newscaster comments about the comet passing harmlessly by. Waugh and Sparling set up a premise that skitters nervously from the pre-apocalyptic feel of disaster movie first reels to the sort of glacial calm we see in first contact stories, all structured with moments of genuine humanity. When proof that the comet is going to hit is made clear, one of John's neighbors confronts him about why he got the call. The ghost of the Twilight Zone's The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street slouches into eyeline, and for a second the movie hangs on a knife edge before calm and experience prevail. Some people here have faith in their friends and family. Others strike out on their own. Who survives has nothing to do with either of those choices. This is, to quote Kara Thrace, the end of the world. Every scale gets balanced. The pleasingly feverish middle hour that follows starts with the Garrity's arriving at their evac station. Escalates to the explosion above. There's a very nice illustration of explosion here. And along the way takes in moments of human kindness and cruelty, all carefully placed in context. Better still, the choices that separate them make perfect sense at the time. And both Allison and John do their best with the information they have. It's often not enough. They keep trying. Which brings us to 2020. This is the first movie I've seen in a long time that captures the exhaustion of extended terror. The Garritys are put through the ringer over and over again, saved and damned by total strangers, never reaching a point of stability. That middle hour, hyperbolic as it is, reminded me of nothing more than March 2020. A month that, for me, began with a passing conversation about how many crates of hand wash someone should buy, and finished 4 months later with the realization that lockdown wasn't only being put in place late, it was being lifted early.
Yeah.
The exhaustion and necessity of protecting yourself and your loved ones in a constantly changing climate of fear is captured very well here, to the point where if these are emotions and experiences you're still living or processing, maybe come back later. It is not pleasant in spots, and it's sure as hell familiar. The movie is at its best when the characters don't know where their best is. Allison makes an entirely understandable mistake that leads to a kidnapping. A sergeant who won't be evacuated doesn't lift a finger to help an inconvenienced family who might be. A pilot risks 12 lives for 3, and half a dozen people are seriously injured because of one man. The soul death caused by the characters on screen grinds everything to a sudden, juddering halt as just what's happened sinks in. The character involved won't talk about it afterwards. These are the panicked, out-of-focus Polaroids of the end of the world. Greenland is littered with them, and the better for it. Inevitably, things have to come to a head, but even here, Greenland impresses. The ending is a happier flip side to that of the superlative Miracle Mile, a movie this double bills with very well. Greenland manages to both mark the cost of the global tragedy and retain hope for a brighter future, at least for the Garrities and the legions of other survivors. It's a tough, bittersweet ending, but Butler especially makes it work. Greenland is an absolutely off-the-shelf disaster movie, but it's also smarter and more grounded than you expect, and makes a high watermark on the resume of its gloriously eccentric leading man. Better than you think it should be, and timelier than any of us wanted, Greenland is on Amazon Prime now.
Nailed it.
You have some really good one-liners in there.
Thank you.
That the whole still Polaroids of the apocalypse line was a good one. I like that a lot.
Nailed it, Premee. Thank you so
Well
much for
done.
that.
No, thank you. Hugo Award nominated Alasdair.
Hugo Award nominated Premee.
Actually, I guess.
Yeah, Escape
Yeah.
Pod.
For Escape Pod, yeah.
And you get a rocket, and you get a rocket. Yeah, if only it worked that way,
It's
right?
been a weird week. Should we talk about books? Let's talk about books.
Let's talk about books.
Let's talk
I
about
like
your books.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them.
We could talk about somebody else's books.
We are not talking... Okay, chat, I should point out, literally the first time I met Premee in person, her editor, Dave Moore, gave me a copy of her debut novel. And Premee was literally... Dave had a holdall full of arcs of this book. And Premee was literally following him around the convention, waiting for him to hand one out to people, and then go, "I'm so sorry, I'm going to need that back. It's really not very good. It's in everyone's best interest if you don't read it."
Spoiler alert,
Yeah,
the
it was
book
great
was
because,
amazing.
He actually, I didn't know that he and the publicist were rolling suitcase full of review copies around. So a couple of hours into the con, somebody came up behind me and was like, "Hey, can you sign this?" I was like, "How did you get a copy of that? I don't even have a copy of that. I don't even know what my editor looks like at this point."
Oh no.
That's amazing.
It took him like a day to find me and give me a copy of my own book.
Well, to be fair, you were hiding behind Matt Dovey the entire time.
That is true. That is true. He is easy to hide behind.
Grab the books. Grab
And
the stack.
speaking, as we were, of your books,
Because, like I said, there are so very many.
visual aids.
Visual aids. All right, let's start.
There's a
This-
visual aid.
That's the second one.
There's
We're gonna
another
Let's start with the first
visual
one.
aid.
This is the
Oh,
first
right.
one, Beneath the Rising.
Pay very close attention to the loops. There are things in the loops.
There are things in the loops. I
That
love this
took
cover.
me about 6 months to realize, and when I saw them, I dropped a book. Like as if they had just appeared. Yeah.
Wow, love it. This is the one we're going to spend the most time talking about tonight, which is the sequel, which has even more loops and probably even more things. And I've just realized what the cover means. Okay, that was fun.
What does the cover mean?
You've seen Arrival, right?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about this one, too. These Lifeless Things. This is who's doing these? Remind me again.
Solaris.
This is Solaris's new novella line. Premee's one of those, and then we have like a bazillion other things that Premee is doing and coming up.
Because
to talk
essentially,
about as well.
what we're doing today is we are standing in for Premee's own personal TV station from her secret volcano HQ somewhere in Canada, where the signal will go across every channel on Earth, and she'll be like, "People of Earth, I have now released all of the books, all of them. They're all written by me. You have what, 4 out this year?
Yeah, 4. I mean, three novellas in one novel. So
That's
people are quick to remind me that a novella is much quicker to write than a novel, and I shouldn't be proud of it. But
Well, they can fuck
Those
off.
people are wrong and
Yes.
are naughty and should come to me no, I'm not.
Correction.
Correction is the correct
sadly,
word.
I am too Canadian to say anything cruel to them. But I hope they know that I'm thinking it.
That's very rude
Sorry.
and inappropriate.
Very rude. I'm a very couth person. Alistair and I were just discussing this.
Premee is one of the coothiest human beings on Earth.
Coothiest of them all.
So let's talk about writing.
We should probably also say two things. First of all, there are some content warnings for what we're going to talk about, because Premee likes to write about eldritch horror and cosmic deities and the end of the world. So please be advised that we're going to talk about some stuff. There's also some body horror, and there's some biological horror, and there's some PTSD and stress dealing with. So please do check the show notes for a complete list of all the content warnings. The other thing we should say up front is we're going to talk about both books, but if we're going to talk about the second book, we may spoil a little bit of the first one. So we'll try to be minimalistic about it, but just heads up, if you're really wanting a cold read experience, this might be a VOD for you to come back and join us a little bit later and catch up on it after you've devoured these. The other thing I would say is maybe don't read those at bedtime like I did. I have a very high tolerance for horror, and there was once or twice it was like, I'm gonna go watch a food video before I go to sleep now.
Joshua, make that case for me. I'm frightened.
Yes, exactly. So,
Sorry.
do you want to set the scene for us, Premee? Just give us like a very brief overview of the first book and kind of what we're coming into on the second one.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so the first one, as I so memorably had somebody summarize it for at Dublin Worldcon, actually. He said, it's the story of a scientist who solves the world's energy problems and creates a bunch more problems.
That's
and
a
that
very
killed me
good
because I thought that's
summary.
a very good summary. I hope that guy was in marketing or something. Or maybe he wasn't, because he didn't give me his card or his name or anything.
Like a ninja marketing.
Yeah, it's basically the
Ninja
story
marketing!
of a child prodigy scientist who builds a reactor that supposedly should solve the world's energy problem, but it attracts the attention of some of Earth's old, I think they would call themselves friends, because they moved in and started taking all our stuff. Basically, eldritch, horrible beings that refer to themselves as the Ancient Ones, which, wow, presumptuous. But she and her best friend have to figure out basically how to solve this new problem that is unrelated, it seems, to clean energy and is more related to the Earth being overrun and invaded by these god-awful ancient creatures. And I guess, again, spoiler alert, at the end of the book, they certainly seem to have done so, which is really good, because nobody likes being invaded by giant ancient eldritch
You gotta
creatures.
stop that sentence with nobody likes being invaded. We also don't like being invaded by eldritch ancient ones.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's invasions and then there's invasions.
Yeah. Tonight's gender, invasions. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess at the start of the second book, I didn't want to set it too much later than the end of the first one, because I had this idea in the back of my mind that time really kind of heals all wounds, and I really didn't want the wounds to feel healed. I wanted them to be kind of open and painful still for everybody. So Nick, the narrator, the main character, has some trust issues now, which legit.
Are earned, yes.
Are earned, yeah. His former best friend continues to be an unrepentant asshole about everything that happened because we fixed it. Because kids these days. And the entire world, basically, because they weren't able to see this coming, because they weren't able to do anything about it, to fight back, to actually prevent deaths or sickness or anything like that, now the entire world is having trust issues. So even governments are paranoid. The scientists are wildly mistrusted. People are trying to move on, and it's not that easy. A lot of people have died. There have been a lot of things that couldn't be explained. There's a lot of proof, but there's still no explanation for what happened.
So
and nobody who's involved wants to explain, because that would make them culpable.
It sounds almost like the MCU kind of post-blip situation we're in now, where, well, technically we fixed it, but everybody remembers and nobody's happy, and yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like that, yeah.
I mean, I could write a laundry list of the stuff across these two books where I went, oh my god, this is impressive. Oh wow, this is so really, really cool. But that's if I did, that would probably be the top of the list. The way that you build the sequel from the consequences of the first one without cheapening the first one at all. And also how you really drill down on the fact that Nick and Johnny fundamentally are kids. And everything...
Kids these days!
Get off my lawn! No, your dad.
Hush now! We're not that old! Come on now!
But the fact that when you're an adolescent, everything is the apocalypse. So when they're dealing with the literal apocalypse, as well as emotions the size of a kaiju-sized old god, they have a lot on. I mean, I've rarely felt more sorry for a leading character than Nick at several points across these books.
Right, the fact that he's literally going from dealing with his first supernatural direct contact to scut retail job to picking up, siblings from after school care to eldritch invasion is like, I would have whiplash if I was Nick. It's a lot to deal with.
I think you're right. Well, and where that came from partly was, and again, I've told this story before, so sorry if this is repeating it, but the first book, Beneath the Rising, was written when I was in my first undergrad, so between about 2000 and 2002, when I was about Nick's age. So when I graduated, I was 20, and the book was done, and it didn't feel like I was writing about, some character. Like, Nick was my peer. He was my age. We did use Netscape Navigator. Everybody can stop making fun of me for that.
I like the end.
That's just how it was.
1 p.m. pick up brother from kindergarten. 2 p.m. fight Cthulhu. You laugh, but there's like a chapter that's like that.
Yeah, it's I think it's the one where Nick gets to complain about the couch.
Yeah, exactly.
Being ruined.
Yep, exactly.
And for once, it's not the kids ruining the couch.
Yeah, it's Cthulhu.
Yeah. He's the worst. He has boundary issues. But so to write the sequel, like, whatever, 18 years later, I was like, oh, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I can capture that voice again, like, writing the voice of someone whose age I was when I wrote the first book. It's like, now I'm an adult and I'm sitting here looking at these kids like, make good choices! Stand up straight, cut your hair, get a job, and stop messing around with
Cthulhu
stuff this instant. Yeah.
So
that's hard.
How did you approach it? Did you like, I mean, there's a lot of different techniques that authors talk about when they're trying to put themselves in the frame of mind to write a sequel, and especially you, I think, where you were talking about how you wanted to kind of start the sequel in what I call the Goldilocks zone of the bruise. The fact that it still hurts and it's very developed, and so that you can kind of you were not in the immediate trauma, but you were in the immediate aftermath of the traumatic events at the end of the first book. How did you approach that? Did you go hang around with a bunch of damn kids? Did you reread the first book? Did you find an analogous difficult situation to mentally put yourself in?
I did reread the first book. I unfortunately, due to the plague, could not hang around with a bunch of damn kids. And
Premee, there's this thing, it's called the internet. It has lots of people on it who are not your age that you can hang around with.
I'm not hanging around with children on the internet. God, I'm not Baba Yaga. Like,
true.
Oh, you can come back anytime you want.
That was the least awkward place that sentence could have gone. Good job.
But yeah, no, well, and again, the book isn't set now either. It's set in 2004. So talking to kids now wouldn't be useful. They'd be like, well, why didn't they just take a video with their cell phone? And I'd be like, okay, get off my lawn. Let me tell you about cell phones in 2004, you little bastard. But as if neither of you has used that sentence before, tell me you have.
Well, it's like the bane of modern writing, isn't it? Is when when you're trying to put yourself in a pre-concurrent time period, but you're still trying to make it analogous. I mean, it's literally that zone of, okay, so AOL exists, but we're all still on Nokia phones, which are shit, right? You could realistically have both a BlackBerry and a Sidekick, but you can't. There's no TikTok, right?
All I can think of
it's like, oh no, I I dropped my Palm Pilot into the storm drain, and now people are like, "You dropped your what?" My Palm Pilot. Is that a euphemism for something? No.
It's like there was this time before the
It's like a
cloud
BlackBerry.
where like
Like a
physical
what?
memory was everything. Right? Exactly. God, we sound ancient.
Oh God, now I feel
Anyway.
old. This conversation is making my back hurt. But also, I think there was a scene in the first book where I think it's Johnny. Like, I think she literally drops her cell phone into an ancient Mesopotamian tomb and is like, "Oops, well, this makes it not tomb robbing, right? Because I gave them my phone." Like,
It's
I
not
don't think it works
tomb
that way,
raiding
but that's a
if
really
you
good
drop
try.
your phone. Where's the calligrapher? Quick. No, literally. I don't know if you know this, but there's a fantastic community of calligraphers, like formal, fancy calligraphers, who love streams because they like take all those fantastic one-off lines and turn them into pieces of art. And I'm like, quick, get shitpost. That would be a good one. Okay, sorry. I'm very excited about the idea of dropping your phone in a Mesopotamian tomb because that makes it not grave robbing.
Yes.
Yeah, it cancels it out. Yeah.
Take an amulet, leave a phone.
It's the take a penny, leave a penny of the ancient world.
Leave the gun, take the cannoli. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And that's a high five.
Oh, that's a good one. That's worth a high five. Take the
Yeah. But yeah, it was mostly rereading the first book and trying to sort of get back into that headspace. It's something like, I forget what it is, 14 or 16 months have passed. Like, Nick hasn't significantly grown up. I mean, he's an adult now in every sense of the term, even though he's 18 in the first book. But he's seen some shit, so he feels a lot older in the second book, I think. And to me, I was like, okay, maybe I can kind of split the difference between how old I am now and how old I was when I finished the first book, and hope that the voice kind of works, because Nick to me is a really he's a really distinct character. He feels very real to me. So getting back into his voice felt pretty familiar and not as hard as I had been worried about, even though it was hard to write because of pandemic anxiety and insomnia. And
well, those are very much emotions you can leverage in that sort of situation, isn't it? And I don't know about many people, but for me, lots of people think that, okay, 16 is the hardest year of your life because it's like when you've got like the height of school social drama. For me, it was 19. 19 was the worst. It was just the year that it seemed like everything went wrong. And so you saying, well, Nick's 19 now, and I'm like, oh God, this poor kid.
Poor kid.
Oh God. Hey dude, things don't get better yet.
Just you work on the endurance.
Even if none of this was happening, things would not get better, probably. Sorry, I hate to break it to you, but
It's going to be fine, but there's kind of a gradient coming up real quick,
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it absolutely works. He is, if anything, more instantly likable in the second one than in the first.
And Nick is a really wonderful character. He's someone who's very easy to instantly kind of look out the eyes of, because kind of we've all been there, a busy life and lots going on, and are you my best friend or am I in love with you, and how do I navigate that, is a situation that a lot of people have been in, and so there's a lot of resonance. And then the Eldritch gods show up and it just gets
hello. The friendship angle, and like Nick thinks that his loyalty is very much his best quality. Anything that is your best quality can turn on you in an instant, and I hope he kind of figures that out in the first book, because maybe, and I think I was navigating that in the first book as well, is maybe there are times, and he's going to be like, okay, I don't believe it, I won't listen, okay, but sit down. Maybe there are times when you are loyal to something that is bad, and that's when you should pivot. And he'd be like, no, that's terrible. I'd be abandoning somebody. What kind of friend would I be?
The kind who lives.
The
kind who lives?
The kind with self-esteem, who recognizes that maybe you're being exploited.
And that's the thing.
The kind that doesn't have a shattered pelvis?
that's the thing which I really, really responded to in the second one. That this poor fucking kid is doing such incredibly complex psychological and emotional algebra all the time.
Yeah.
And he's constantly going, I'm okay. I think I'm okay. I know what I'm doing. Do I sound like I know what I'm doing? I've been practicing. I'm okay. Am I okay? And I've been there.
Yeah.
And it is
yeah.
so it's so easy to do that badly. And you write him with such incredible compassion and honesty. And nothing goes well for him pretty much at any point. But bless him, he never stops trying. And I have to respect that. You know?
Yeah. Well, what I like, and I like what you said about that too with the algebra, he is always working that out in his head, but for almost all his life, all he's had to navigate basically are family and Johnny, his best friend, his only friend, which he didn't find suspicious at all. Now he's got more people in there. He's got this job. He's got Sophia, who's the daughter of the man he works for, which isn't terrifying at all. He's still trying to do the algebra, and you can almost hear him like, okay, I need to sit down for a minute. I need to sit. There's too much math. There's too much math. How do I?
He's the GIF with all
also,
the math and the face and the.
What are girls? I don't understand what girls are. There's one touching me.
Should I say help?
Right?
Is this good?
Should I say?
Is what's happening good?
Good?
He's holding up a sign that says "Help Wanted."
No, he's got the Wile E. Coyote sign. It's constantly changing, you know? Good Lord, what am I doing? Please help me!
Pretty much. And, doesn't really realize there's an anvil above his head most of the time, which is sad. But again, I think we've all been 20 and been 50%. I know exactly what's going on, and this is my chance to make the most of my life. And 50%, I am going to fuck everything up forever, and no one is going to stop me because they think I'm an adult.
What?
I guess I'll sit down and have a panic attack about it and then go back to work. That was me at 20 anyway.
I plead the fifth.
Wise.
I am reminded of nothing more than that beautiful moment in the Destiny 2 advertising campaign when Nathan Fillion's character is getting drunk in a bar somewhere and he's like, you ever have one of those situations where you're like, I've got this. And there's like flash cuts of doing really flashy gunfighty stuff. I did not have this at all. And Nick, for so much of the second book, is like, it's fine. Oh God.
Beans.
Oh,
beans.
No, it's not fine. No, there are dragons. I thought this was going to be more fine than it was, but now everything's on fire.
Oops.
And that
he's a very resilient young guy in some respects, but he's being tasked with a lot.
That actually brings me on to one of the other things which I really liked.
Which you're going to talk about after you have a sip of tea because you're coughing. Excuse me.
Have some tea.
Yes, tea is good.
You write the best secret societies because it would have been so easy for this to be the kind of absolutely bog standard. I will date myself horribly here, and like 2 people in the chat will go, "Fuck yes!" Poltergeist the Legacy style. You know, kind of groups of random wandering academics. And I love the secret society are all these kind of feral, locked away in bunkers and pocket dimensions somewhere. People just going, I don't give a shit. I've got my books. You gotta have mine.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Well, thank you.
Well, that's not commentary on academia or anything.
Yeah, and that's not commentary on my books or anything behind me, right?
Not at all. Also, subtle placement. I like it.
Yes, very nice.
Thank you. I saw somebody do it in a panel that I was on a couple of months ago, and I was like, oh, I love it! Because they are arranged like right above her head. So you couldn't help but look at them. I just loved it. But the Secret Society. So I wanted that to play more of a part in the second book because it's not innocent in the first book. Things are clearly happening behind the scenes, and both Nick and Johnny are like, hey, how about some information? And they're like, well, we're secrets.
How about new, Scott? How about
which
new?
Then is like a full sentence. We're secret. But I also wanted to give it kind of the sense of, you know those places that are like, come work for us. We're like a family. Well, this society pretty much is. So they're completely dysfunctional. They actually are composed of a lot of families. And it's also been running for thousands of years and just getting more and more paranoid more and more power hungry, more covetous of everything that they don't have, and just going really sharply downhill. And they can't see that. They think they're doing good work.
One of the little throwaway gags I loved, and your world building is exceptional across these books. The fact that you kind of offhandedly establish in the first book, that cats are members of this society.
Oh yeah, cats. Yeah, cats definitely. They're members.
And,
Or if they're not members, they're contractors or they're associated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they have their own and they're just not telling you.
And the moment in the second one,
Cats. It's a secret.
It's a secret.
where when Nick shows up at a society function, and he's like, "Oh, there are cats here. Oh, they all outrank me."
Yeah, they do. I forgot about that. Yeah, they do outrank. The stone moving across the floor probably also outranks somebody's not sure. There it goes.
That's an awkward conversation. Excuse me, inanimate object that is nevertheless moving.
Yeah.
Stand down, son. Thought so. Fine, as you were.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, and that I think leads into kind of their obsession with hierarchy. You know, they've got this pyramid. It comes to a point, and everybody knows exactly where they are, and everybody's struggling to move up in it, and nobody wants to move sideways. No one wants to get demoted. It's their greatest fear, and Nick's been infected with that. When he gets in there, he thinks about hierarchies. He thinks about ranks. Something he's never really been focused on in his life.
And I love how it's portrayed as a coping mechanism. He's just had this horrible shit happen to him. He's like, okay, exams. I can do exams.
I can do exams.
I'm just going to throw my life into this probably meaningless hierarchical structure that I can nevertheless navigate and is therefore within my control. It's the illusion of control.
Yes. Yeah, he's grasping for control. And any little bit that they give him, he's like, oh shit, yeah, I'll take it. I will do that spell for you. Oh, it's gone sideways. Okay.
I'm
okay,
sorry.
Time out. I'm sorry. Am I in trouble? They're like, oh, trouble is not a word we are familiar with. We want something stronger than that.
How do you feel about death? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
So, cosmic horror. This is a genre which traditionally is, well, I mean...
Is this where we start saying fuck Lovecraft?
It's possible
and
that...
I say fuck Lovecraft?
You can say fuck Lovecraft.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, fuck that guy.
Oh, wait, someone in the chat says, content warning. Content warning, academia.
Oh, they're not wrong. It's so sad.
Fake laugh hiding real pain. Yes, exactly.
She says, taking a drink. This is water. It's not room temperature gin.
It could be. Don't you?
I'm
not judging.
Suddenly reminded of
It's just water.
We have donuts for later. We brought donuts.
There is a fantastic TikToker who is currently recapping Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes. Most recently, she did one where Captain America gets to heaven and is greeted by Tony. Tony, I have to ask, what's in the glass? Is it water or room temperature vodka? And Tony just goes, ha 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 ha, yes.
Exactly.
So anyway,
oh my god.
and
I can totally picture RDJ giving that line too.
Yeah, seriously, can't you? Exactly.
Yeah.
Cosmic horror in which Lovecraft can fuck right off. Did you feel any pressure to do certain things that everyone since time immemorial has done with cosmic horror? Like, you know, tentacles, cultists, all that kind of stuff. Or did you mostly just go, this is an unusually gooey box of Lego and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want with it?
I think mostly the second, because I actually didn't really get into Lovecraft until like my 20s, basically. And I've read a few of his short stories and just been like, oh, this guy has a good imagination, but he can't write. That's so sad. It wasn't until later that I found out about the, how you say, the rest of the stuff.
The discourse?
The discourse, because there's a couple stories where the discourse is not immediately evident, and there's a bunch where you can read where it is, and I had not read those. But it did occur to me that if you have a douchebag who's writing, and they're dead. And they've created kind of a really interesting playground. You should be able to just lift stuff from the playground and play with it because they're a douchebag. And a content warning, sorry. It's and it was also fun to kind of, later on in edits particularly, strengthen the parts that my editor was like, hey, this looks like a middle finger to HPL. Is that on purpose? And I was like, no, that's just how I wanted that scene to go. And he's like, well, you could
make it
get a little more overt.
Yeah,
I was like, I could too. So that was kind of fun. Like, there are all these tropes. There are some tropes that are kind of generic, and there are tropes that were specific to kind of him and his group. And those ones are the ones that are fun to spotlight and invert.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff where, well, foreigners aren't really human. They're not actually indistinguishable from the Eldritch Horrors, and that's why they all joined the cult. Also Italians, for some reason. Also the Polish. They're not really human. And just those ideas like that. Like, who gets to say who's human and who's a monster? And there's HPL, like, we're like, okay, no. You're not the arbiter.
Howard,
right.
No. Sit down, Howard.
It's that line from fifth season, no voting on who gets to be people.
Yes.
Yes, exactly like that. Or, the stuff where it's like, one thing you often see in these is prophecies. And the prophecies tend to be flexible enough that they can be interpreted as to mean the horrors that are coming our way intending to destroy the world, or pretty much anything else if you're not careful. It's all in the interpretation. And I liked the ideas of civilizations that were before us, because to him those were actual horrors. They were he's like, I didn't mean like the indigenous people of North America. I meant like a race of lizard people that lived 10 million years ago. And we're like, to him, those were also horrors. They were primitive. They were savage. They also weren't people. They were something to be feared. And I know I've said this before too, but it didn't occur to him that as an American, he was basically an eldritch horror to everybody who had lived on the continent before. White people couldn't be reasoned with. They wanted to exploit and kill and enslave people. How is that different than like Dagon?
Yeah, exactly.
And again, HBO is like, well, I'm not Dagon. Those guys are Dagon. Yeah, but you're kind of Dagon though.
It's also that whole that kind of slider that exists between knowable horror that I have to confront and be held accountable for versus unknowable horror that no one can call me on my bullshit for because I can claim I'm fighting a good moral fight, right?
Yeah, the slider. And the other difficulty with all those stories, like almost all those stories, is people can't fight back. There's almost nothing you can do against the horrors if they A, show up, or you B, accidentally, or C, on purpose, summon them. They show up, you haven't got a weapon that can hurt them, you haven't got a spell that can send them back, you haven't got technology that can communicate with them or translocate them or anything like that. I mean, they try in the Dunwich Horror. They climb up to the top of the standing stone and they shoot their powder. And whatever's up there is like, eee. But in most of the stories, you either go, well, I think it made that noise. In most of the stories, you either go mad instantly. No,
I'm just seeing the Dunwich Horror like with a tea-towel going, go away, you'll set off the smoke detector.
Shoot.
shoot. Like trying to sweep a spider out of the house.
Go. Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry.
There's like Yog Sothoth, like, excuse me.
You interrupted my song!
Excuse me, can I borrow some sugar? Not now, Hasta!
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
It's like dusting the powder on the shirt. Like, you humans. But yeah, the idea that you can't fight back because we're too puny to fight back and they're too ancient and powerful was also something I kind of wanted to poke with a stick in the books. It's like, really? Well, if we couldn't, then how come a lot of these stories, not just him, but, Lord Dunsany and Algernon Blackwood and others are like, well, how come you say these have been here historically and left? Where are they now? How did we get them to leave last time? So I wanted to poke into that as well.
And suddenly you have all
like, how come you guys can't do it now in like 1904 or whatever? And they're like, reasons. I'm like, are they plot reasons?
Exactly. Is it lazy editing? I mean, do you have ancient super powerful beings that built the pyramids, which weren't black people honest, and drove the horrors away, or not? You know, we have to reconcile these two states here. Exactly.
Pick one. Yeah, exactly.
I
you holding ancient masters to internal accountability? My God!
and they're pearl clutching. I should have worn a string of pearls so I could clutch my pearls. Yeah. I
can go get some for you if you really want it. But yeah, next time.
And what I think maybe my favorite thing in these books is the fact that you respond to all of this by doing science to them.
Literally
doing science to them.
Science.
The entire crux of the books is we're going to understand these cosmic bastards to death.
And the cosmic bastards are like, did you just sample my arm? Is that legal?
Was that? I did not give consent, sir.
Well, again, a lot of that came out of the first book. We're pearl clutching. I didn't sign a waiver form. Okay, Yog Sothoth. But
come on, it'll grow back, buddy. Knock it off. Anyway, sorry.
Walk it off.
Walk it off, Alasdair. Walk it off, Alasdair.
My first degree, because I was writing that during a science undergrad, and the thought kind of was, okay, I understand that we're undergrads, and we would blow up the chemistry building if we were allowed to do exactly what we wanted. No, legit. But, supposing I, for instance, not an evil scientist, had all the money and resources that I ever wanted, wouldn't that be amazing? What would I work on if that were the case? What problems could you solve worldwide? It wasn't until I started getting into the book that I was like, what kind of personality would you turn out with if you had unlimited money and resources and science and nobody ever said no to you? And you decided that you were going to be the person who saved the world.
Yeah, what if you were Tony
well, that
Stark
sounds like a hero.
12?
And Johnny's like, well, that sounds pretty good. And then you're almost at the end of the book where you're like, actually.
Wait a minute.
And
wait a minute.
That just blew me away. The way you move the perspective. And there's a couple of very spoilery things I won't go into. But the end of the first book in particular, there were a couple of points where I was like, oh no. And
so was my editor.
and you understand why certain characters have made the choices they have, and you hate them for it. And it is so.
And you understand why some characters had their choices taken away from them and weren't aware of it.
Yes.
There have been people who were like, in the first book, who were kind of like, well, I don't see the stereotypical fits in a box kind of sci-fi fantasy trope formula agency here. I'm not seeing enough character agency. And I was like, to me, that's a very straight white guy reading.
It is.
That tells me that you've always been in a position in your life where you had choices and could take action. What about everybody else who has to act within the constraints of what our lives actually look like? And we understand that not making a choice is often a choice.
Yeah.
I think about the trade-offs that Nick has had to make and the choices in his life to prioritize his family, to prioritize keeping his brothers and his sisters safe and his mom safe, who's, a single parent, and to try to, preserve his only friendship with someone who's away a lot, and the things that kind of keep him down and snatch away the choices that someone who wasn't him might have. And when people are like, you write characters without agency, I think that's a very ungenerous reading of what agency looks like for a lot of the world.
Or it's a perspective that is steeped in unrecognized privilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that you have this assumption that the definition of a protagonist, not even a hero, but someone who is the center of a story, is the actions they are able to take, as opposed to, I think, the much more nuanced reading of it, of course, is this is a person making the best choice they can given their circumstances and their limitations in their environment.
I actually have a beautiful, horrifying textbook description of unrecognized privilege the very first Worldcon I went to in London in 2014, there was a panel about female authors and the difficulties that female and female presenting authors face. And about halfway through the panel, this dude comes in with a folded up bike, high-vis vest, helmet, pulls his way to the front, sits in the middle of the front row. And you've been in panel rooms like I have, where you're like, a chill fills the room. Yep. You know something is about to go down.
Yeah.
And after about 10 minutes, and I cannot emphasize enough, this is maybe 20 minutes into the discussion. The question and answer session is in the distant future. He sticks his hand up. And the moderator goes, all right, sir. He goes, I have a question. If it's so difficult making a career as a female presenting author, why don't you just use male pseudonyms? I have no memory of the 2 minutes that followed that. There are flash images.
Like your brain just erased them.
Yeah. He was excoriated by everybody, and
okay, good.
And he stood there and went, understood. Thank you for your time. Got up.
Please get on your bike and leave, sir.
And completely retraced his steps out of the room.
That's more grace than I've seen previously, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
he came in there to just to ask his question that he assumes female authors have never thought of in our entire lives and left?
Yes.
Wow.
I've seen engineering people do that in panels as well. Just because it's the idea that the solution that you thought of to a problem with your own experience from your reference and knowledge is something that must logically here being the most coded word in the world, be the correct answer, and that something's never been thought of, but that other situations that would counteract it have never been considered, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Why not just...
They're asking a single question, and we've asked thousands to come to our decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I literally, before I started publishing, like when I was still publishing short stories, more than one person contacted me to say, hey, I'm saying this as a friend. This is a friendly piece of advice. If you want to get into actual books, you should change your name, because no one's going to buy a book if it's got your name on it. They're going to assume it's like an immigrant story or an arranged marriage story. And I was like, thank you. I will take that into consideration. Block.
Rage accelerating.
Put that over here
oh my God.
with the rest of the fire. Goodbye.
Yeah. And they were literally, their concern was that I would lose sales for having a visibly ethnic name and not writing an ethnic book. I don't think I can write an ethnic book. I've never been to India. What are people expecting?
And how many books do you have out this year?
4.
Yeah.
People seem to not mind. I don't know.
You win.
Wait a minute. But maybe they're not selling. Because of the name? I actually don't know. People don't give me numbers. That's something I guess I will find out on a royalty statement at some point.
Yeah. But that's
But the pseudonym thing has come up kind of a gross amount, really. I think it stopped coming up, which is good.
Good.
Well, I mean...
Well, you block enough people, and maybe hopefully they get...
Yeah, when you block enough people.
And when it all dies back down to a dull roar. But yes,
Do you want to take one more point, maybe? Because we've already been talking for an hour, OMG.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's good. It's fantastic.
I'm rambling.
I've been kind of keeping an eye on the chat. If you want to start asking some questions as well, we'll start keeping an eye out.
We've done a really, really good job of talking in detail about Beneath the Rising and the Broken Darkness without being spoilery. So,
yay!
You want to chat about the novella real quick?
You want to talk about these
sure.
lifeless things? Signed special. It's already signed.
Yeah, they sent me this. This is the first time this has ever happened. They sent me this like gigantic brick of tip-in sheets, and I just spent like the whole evening signing them, and then I had to try to get it carefully back into their incredibly protective original packaging so that the edges wouldn't get like squished, which took longer than the actual like signing part.
Yes, but what movies did you watch while you were signing all of these?
I think I was watching SpongeBob SquarePants. Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with SpongeBob. Nothing but love for the denizens of Bikini Bottom.
I can't remember.
It's in different fonts.
Oh yeah, for the two people. Yeah, for Eva and for Emerson.
Ooh, I love that. I think that's such a cool like voice trick.
Yeah,
of
they
doing
also
different
got
fonts.
people for voice actors for the audio version, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I listened to the sample and was like, this is amazing.
Nice.
But yeah, this is kind of a side quill. I think someone on Twitter called it a paraquill the other day, and I was like, not bad. I will keep saying side quill because paraquill doesn't work with my brain. But a side quill to a story that I published in about 2017 called Ensnare of Cold Command, which is, of course, a line stolen from the Ozymandias poem.
Nice.
And it was about, an invaded city, a siege city, where statues have come to life and are causing problems and stabbing people and attacking people and stuff, and
Like
everyone's
they
trying
do.
to scrape out a living. As they do.
Statue stuff.
Yeah. Statue stuff, statue hobbies. It's important for statues to have hobbies.
It's important for statues to have hobbies.
And it was kind of the story of a man who's asked by these terrible creatures that invaded. Although this isn't in the Beneath the Rising universe, this is totally separate. But he's asked by these terrible creatures to go find the head of the resistance who's fighting against them. So he's got some choices to make. And so this is happening at the same time, but not in the same area. Although they do actually reference the story in the novella.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's a story of one story is the story of two friends who are, again, trying to kind of scrape out a living and figure out what's happening in the city, and all of a sudden something changes that affects A, their survival, and B, possibly the survival of the human race, which would be very inconvenient if that were to end. We're kind of using it. And the second story is after that story ends, when a group of researchers comes back to this siege city to kind of figure out what happened, because there isn't a lot of evidence left as to what really happened, and kind of decide if there's enough information to kind of keep going. If the story in the initial part is true, maybe something's left over in the city. It's hard to tell. It's all kind of unpleasant, but I liked the idea of humanity kind of rebuilding itself after one of those end of the world scenarios. So in Emerson's story, the world has done so.
Oh, so it's kind of like one part bomb squad, one part archaeology. I like it.
Yeah.
We have a comment in the chat from Hasser who says, Premee, as someone who decided not to use my ethnic name for my creative pursuits, I really respect that decision. Heart. I do it more for privacy reasons, but the thought that my work might be interpreted differently if my name sounded less white never leaves my mind.
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. Yeah. And I even it's one of those things where I'm always conscious of this kind of balancing act. I mean, are there going to be literally brown readers, or like, I don't know, my family or something, that's going to pick up the book expecting it to be a book with a focus on my culture? Or are there white readers, going to pick it up and expect that? Or are they going to pick it up and be horrified that I've written, I don't know, two white protagonists? Or is that kind of what they're expecting? Or it's
the only
it's
thing
hard
I was
to tell
disappointed
what's
about
being demanded.
Is, you're a Canadian writer, so I kind of assumed there'd be some poutine somewhere, and I didn't see any. So it's kind of like, oh well.
They're hardly ever somewhere you can get poutine, though.
Yeah, I hear that.
Tragic, sad.
Any other questions from the chat? Do you want to kind of do final thoughts, and why don't you run down with Premee what else she's got coming out this year? Because it's a lot.
Premee, let's talk.
Oh my God, there's a handful of stuff.
Let's talk about the invasion. What's out? What's on the way?
The invasion, the Premicular invasion, is on the way. I
love that
would
you
like
have
to
a verb
shout
for it.
out
The Premicular.
The Premicular. That's lovely.
I didn't come up with that. My friends came up with that in high school. It's an adjective meaning something that either reminds you of Premee or is something she would like. So I get texts that were like, hey, I found this sweater. Don't you think it's Premicular? That kind of thing.
How do we get that in the Oxford Dictionary, right? That has to be like...
It's useful.
It's a very useful
That's
word.
why people send me like sparkly things and fountain pen stuff and like beetles and dinosaurs and stuff like that.
Did you get the chocolate beetle for Valentine's Day?
I did not.
You need to get
I didn't know there was one coming.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was vetoed. I was going to, but I was told that I should allow someone who has romantic intentions towards you to purchase you a giant chocolate beetle, and that it might be misinterpreted, which is valid. But I do hope you
What
sometimes.
intentions? You.
At some.
Giant chocolate beetle.
Yeah.
You need one in your life.
You need a giant
I
chocolate
do need
beetle.
one in my life. Yeah.
Edible friend.
You need one in your life for an appropriate period of time.
No, that'd be too sad. I can't eat it. Somebody put so much work into it.
Yes, but then you don't want it to like melt or rot. That would be bad. But
It's Canada. We get down to minus 40 most of the year.
Fair. All right, talk about the primicular releases.
Sorry. Yes, the invasion. The things. I guess I'd kind of most like to shout out 3 kind of upcoming things because they're the most current. And the first one is Elise Tobler, who formerly edited Shimmer, is the current editor of a new venue called the Deadlands, which is a spec-fic venue focused on death and death-related products. And I was asked to contribute a story, so I'm really pushing the Kickstarter because I would love if we could fund. And at 20K, we get open to submissions.
Yeah.
So people should really be interested in reading this magazine. I cannot wait for everyone to see what Elise's tastes look like for death and deathly things and the afterlife and everything like that.
We will put a link to that in the show notes, everybody. But Zalia, if you could grab a link to the Kickstarter, perhaps while we're chatting, that would be lovely. I think we supported it at the Give Me Everything Forever level.
Thank you.
Or as it was referred to in the past, the Marguerite level.
The Marguerite level. It must be mine! Yes, exactly.
And the second one's another Kickstarter, which Alistair thankfully shouted out in the last full lit, or the one before that, maybe the last one. Which, thank you.
No worries.
Which is called Life Beyond Us. We've been calling it exobiology or astrobiology anthology. And the cool thing about this is that the stories, there's 22 stories, so 22 authors. The stories are going to be paired with an essay by a scientist, an astrobiologist, or a deep sea oceanologist, or something like that.
We have not.
It must be mine!
Wait till you see the gorgeous limited edition illustrated hardcover. It's a work of art. And and the other thing for our stories is we're being invited to collaborate with the scientist who's writing the essay with us so that we can ask them about their research. They can help us find papers. We can work through the story together and like correct any glaring scientific malfunctions or whatever, except in my case where they serve the plot, which then I'm keeping.
Of course.
I really hope people back that. There are some amazing rewards on that one, like back behind the scene tours of like telescopes and deep sea labs and stuff like that. So virtual, because there is still a plague.
But virtual is good. It means I might get to participate. I don't have to travel.
Yes.
That's very good.
Yes.
Deep sea labs, you
yes,
say.
They're very, very exciting. Yeah. And I guess the last one is the Kickstarter for my next book, my novella, And What Can We Offer You Tonight, which is with Neon Hemlock. So that is going live, I believe, May 1st. We're doing the cover reveal on April 26th on Sarah Gailey's newsletter, which I'm really excited about. And
Nice.
I would like to, if they're listening, shout out, thank them for hosting my cover reveal. Thank you. We're kickstarting those, and I'm super, super excited for people to read that and to see the cover. And
who's editing the because I know Charles Pezur did some of the Neon Hemlock. Is that
in this case it's Dave Ring?
Okay, maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah.
So
I think. Sorry, go on.
And I believe there is a 4th Premee book on the way this year.
Yes, there is. Yeah, it's The Annual Migration of Clouds, which is a post-collapse climate fiction novella coming out from ECW Press, and that one's in September. So if you've seen me splashing around the beautiful magpie cover, Jen Albert,
Jen Albert's your editor for that.
Yeah.
Jen Albert, folks, is the co-editor of Podcastle as well.
Hugo nominated
editor of Podcastle. Yes, exactly.
Yes. No,
the cover
I'm really,
on
really
that
excited
is
for that one as well.
gorgeous.
It's so gorgeous. We lucked out so much. That was designed by Veronica Park, and I was able to collaborate with them the entire way, and it was just an amazing process. I've never really had input into a cover before, so that was the first time. And it was cool to kind of go behind the scenes and be like, well, how do they pick someone based on their portfolio, and what do you look at, and how do you pick colors and stuff like that. It was really neat.
Nice.
That sounds amazing. Premee,
Yeah, ECW Press is great to work with.
We are so glad not just to have you on the stream, but to see an author of your extraordinary talents and gifts just be lauded
my pearls.
my pearls.
And your sparkliness. Absolutely your sparkliness.
Just have so much success. You do the best work, and I'm so happy there's so much of it to enjoy this year.
Very much so. Exactly.
Oh, thank you so much, you guys. And thank you for having me on this. This was super, super fun, and I missed you.
I know. We miss you too.
Buddy.
We haven't seen you in quite a
Miss your
while. And
faces.
it has been hard. And hopefully we will get to see you again soon.
Yes.
Single tear. Yeah.
Drama chair. Exactly.
The single sparkly tear.
Single. It's forget black gang tattoos. That is the new what's the word again?
Premicula.
It's a very premicular.
Single sparkly tear.
Single sparkly tears.
It's either a single sparkly tear or it's a single tear of fountain pen ink. Because I just started getting into those a couple years ago. And unfortunately, once you get one, you're like, oh, I'm hooked. Tragic.
Now I must have
there
them.
goes all my money.
Now
I must have
bye
them all.
bye, buddy. Bye bye. Exactly.
Bye, money.
All right.
There's the bank like, don't you need to pay your mortgage? I'm like,
Pens.
I shall write my checks to you for $0 or zero monies in sparkly.
let me write you out the check in exposure. Yeah, the bank doesn't take exposure. Everybody buy my books.
Literally.
The pens that are delivered in
Dave Moore made me say that.
Dave Moore made you say buy my books?
He's sitting on my shoulder somewhere. It's like this little angel wings or whatever. Since we signed the book deal, he's sitting there going, Premee, remind them, tell people to buy your books so that I can feed my family. I'm like, Dave, that's so sad. I will tell people.
You know he lives down the
I would
road from
also
us,
like
right?
food. Sorry?
You know he lives down the road from us. We get together with him for
Yes,
coffee.
no, I didn't know that until a couple of months ago. Literally.
Have I not told you the most incompetent and quintessentially British thing we've ever done?
No, tell me.
When I still, in the long ago, when Marguerite had to take the train into London, I'd walk her into the train station. I'd take a long way round and grab a cup of coffee from one of the 3 Starbucks within half a mile.
That's why we live here. I'm an American. I need my Starbucks.
And the half hour before they have the traditional early morning dance fights, really tranquil. And I turned this particular corner. Every time I did, 3 times out of 5, I go, that looks a lot like Dave Moore. And a few times I'd wave, and he just cold caught me. I'm like, nah, it's just please some other.
It's just some guy.
Some other distinguished Australian punk. And then one day, I turned the corner, literally bounced off him, and he was like,
Yeah.
Al, Dave.
No, it's the other way around. He looks up, you look down.
How long have you lived here? 8 months. How long have you lived here? 15 years. So how have you been? And we talk for half an hour. And it only stops when Dave goes, have you noticed it's raining? Yes, I have.
That is so English.
Right.
We should probably go inside. Why don't we? And hung out. It was great.
Exactly.
Oh my god. I think the first thing he said, the first thing I can clearly remember him saying to me was, Premee, oh my god, it's so good to meet you. Are you busy? Do you want to go down the pub?
Yep.
So,
Mr. Moore and
Mr.
Twitty.
Moore. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I made him stop long enough to give me a couple copies of my own book, which he was carrying around with him, so I could get some photos, and then I put them in my bag, and then we did go down the pub.
Nice.
Fantastic.
That is the appropriate order of operations. Give me my book, then we shall pub.
Give me my book.
Pub.
Yep.
Insert one book.
I love you guys are like
pubbing.
neighbors.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Premee, this has been delightful. Thank you so much for coming on to chat with us. We really appreciate it. Folks, we will put all the various links that we've talked about here tonight in the stream show notes, and Zalia's been putting some of them in the chat. Thank you very much for that. We are going to step away and take a little break and say goodnight to Premee, and then we will come back for some shenanigans like usual. We'll see you in a bit.
And we're back.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Can I get into the donuts now?
Yeah, you can get into the donuts now.
Donuts. There we go. You gonna do a little bit of proof of life here?
Here's the boy. He's all good.
Chungy boy. Exactly. He's doing just fine. I should check if he needs to be fed, but I don't want to make him naked on screen.
At
We
least.
figured with Premee and, Eldritch Horror,
Yeah.
it was probably a good time to bring out the Halloween costume. Next week. Oh my god, chat. Next week we have such an outfit for Chungus.
Yes, we do.
It's going to be amazing. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Because we should probably update everybody on what's been going on this last week.
Well, about 10 days ago.
You remember that thing? What are you doing?
I'm just making sure he's, not...
Stable. He's not going to fall over. Yes, please, 4Rats. Make more costumes. Costumes good. Costumes every... I fixed the stupid basket that was breaking that holds all of Chungus's costumes. So now there's space. Sorry.
So you remember about 2-3 weeks ago, I talked about my favourite West Wing episode, Celestial Navigation, and how at the end of that,
Of course he's going to go with this.
Josh is like, I can't tell you about the awesome thing that's just happened, but invite me back in a few weeks.
Hi, it's been a few weeks.
I am a finalist for 4 Hugo Awards this year.
Yes, you are.
Marguerite is a finalist for 2.
My very first nomination.
We have 2 shows on the Best Semi-Prosine finalist list, which is really fun to say.
Yes. Mur and Divya are nominated for Best Short Form Editing as
4.
well.
I personally am a finalist in 4 departments. Best fan
departments.
writer, best fanzine with my intrepid two-fisted editor.
Hi.
Best related work for Conceal and Fringe.
For, when they tell you to do it yourself and you do and they get mad at you? Well,
It feels great.
the people who
great.
don't get mad at you apparently nominated us for a Hugo.
And I'm a member of the Escape Pod team. So with Escape Pod being a finalist, I'm looking at 4 rocket pins. Now,
The other thing we're looking at, though, is so the Hugos are awarded every year at Worldcon traditionally, and traditionally Worldcon is held in August or September. This year it's been delayed till December. So we are going to have don't cry on stream as much, darling. We are going to have an 8-month voting window.
It's going to suck.
So, unfortunately, it'll be something we talk about on the regular for quite a lengthy period of time.
And there is also, just to be really process gonky for a moment, there's a very genuine concern that basically because there's this humongous voting window, people are just not going to bother with stuff that's been written this year. So,
Haster, bless your heart. Thank you. Haster says 8 months to get you a win. I'm like,
aw.
all right, I want to talk about this really quick because I have a complicated relationship with awards. Awards, especially in this type of award, are popularity contests, and I am never a person who has ever been popular or won a popularity contest. There is this great board game that I used to play a lot of that had a mechanic that there was success and then there was overwhelming success. So there were degrees of variation between you accomplished your goal and everything aligned perfectly and you got something more for it. Being nominated for a Hugo is a success. That is the prestigious thing. It gets your name in the records. It's the recognition of your peers. It's a fantastic rush. It's something that you can work for and understand and maybe develop. There's a degree of input and control. Winning the Hugo is an overwhelming success. Everything has to align. It's outside of your control. And so, we got nominated. I think that's brilliant.
My version of this is really simple. It's because I saw Men in Black at a very formative age. And
Who's surprised?
And, Tommy Lee Jones upside down on the roof of the Lincoln Tunnel going, you got to find ways to find joy in your work, son. Boogieing along to Elvis kind of hit me where I live.
The only reason you haven't done that is because we haven't been in the Jersey Tunnel.
And because I don't have enough hair. Which is very sweet of you to not say.
Don't. Oh, honey. It's not about that. Anyway.
It's going to be great. Because
Scooch over a little bit more. There you are, Katie.
because we get to be finalists. And we get little rocket pins, and that's going to be awesome. Are we going to win anything?
I get 2. I get enough rocket pins that I could make cufflinks out of them.
Are we going to win anything? Who can say? Maybe.
Maybe. Who knows?
But the most important thing is not to get dragged into the kind of gravitational pull of this must be the only thing we ever talk about, because we were on stage now and on stage for the next 8 months and blah, 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 and just, no.
Does that mean you'll listen to me when I tell you there are things that are wrong that need to be changed? Or does that mean people... I'm not mean you. I mean the royal you. The community. Or does that mean people are going to continue to ignore us when we tell them that they're systemic barriers to entry?
Probably a bit more of the second than the first.
Yeah, well, I could try. I'll try.
But I did get an enormous fuck-off bit of Lego to celebrate.
Yes, he did.
And I have made... mistakes have been made.
The grave robbing quote is already done it up on Twitter.
Yes.
Shitpost your lightning. Oh my gosh. Okay, we have to do that. We have to put that in the stream notes.
Of course.
Okay.
But yeah.
Please continue. I'm sorry, John.
Mistakes.
I forgot you were there.
Not so much, perhaps. But let's just say that I've finished building the main body of the Hubble Space Telescope. It is this long. It fits inside the payload bay of the space shuttle, which best guess is...
It's like a 3,000 piece set, folks. He's going to be building it for months. It's perfect.
That long. Yeah, I'm actually looking for a wall bracket for it, I think.
Okay, good. That's what you bought yourself for your Hugo nominations, which is fabulous. I'm going to buy something nice for myself for my Hugo nominations next month. And it's probably going to be Waterford cocktail glasses, because I don't want a 3,000 piece Lego set. But y'all are going to need a bigger house. From your mouth to God's ears, Wendy. Tell me about it.
Ideally somewhere not above the alley where one day Batman's parents will be killed.
Camera go burr. Come on. Knock it off.
Come on now.
Focus. There we go. If I have to focus, you have to focus, camera. There we go. Cruffles? Oh no. Something much nicer. Okay, I'm going to start cooking with oil, so don't make me laugh too hard or I might die. Don't die, Kiwi. That would be bad. Put the oil down. Don't burn yourself. The answer to why not buy all the Lego Pezzy is then you have to keep it somewhere, and then more importantly, you have to dust it. We have most of the house sets, because there's a bank with a little bank rubber, so I had to make all the leverage characters and Lego so that Parker could go down the chimney.
You realize with the new show there'll be another couple of characters.
No! Stop! Anyway, oh god, new leverage. Anyway, but it gets dirty, and then you have to clean it, and it's so much work. It's so much work. And then you kick the little pieces, and then the vacuum eats them, and it gets very difficult. But if we had a big enough house, we could do just walls of big shelves with Lego sets on them, and then at least I wouldn't have to look at the dust. And that would be the détente, right? It could be dusty, but I can't see that it's dusty. It's like spiders. You know what? I have no problem with them living in my house whatsoever. You fail your spot hidden, and I see... Oh, that's my alarm telling me I should go to bed. Shut up. If you fail your spot hidden role as a spider in my house, and I detect you, you have lost. You have to go outside now. But if I don't see you, you're allowed to live. Glass display cases are heavy and expensive. And we need a lot of them because we have a lot of Lego.
Oh, just a garage.
I'm not going to put the Lego in the garage. Why would you do that?
That's where the treadmill in the car and the dog go.
Well, yes. Marguerite go to bed challenge. Oh, bless. Anyway, so yeah, that's where we were this week. The last 2 weeks.
Also, I was ill as shit. I mean, just ill as fuck.
He was pretty much bedridden for a week. And he's doing much better now. And you're doing much better even tonight. Your cough.
Yeah, I am.
And your energy level have really improved.
It really... There were a couple of days where I was just I have a certain element of hypochondria because of how I was raised. And there were
because we both have medical professionals in our families.
And there were a couple of days in the middle where it was am I dying?
No.
And it turns out I'm not.
But there was a 4-day period of time where we had one 10-minute conversation that he remembered. And the rest of it was literally Change the movie, put fluids in you, go back to sleep. Change the movie, put fluids in you, go back to sleep.
I would wake up, go to the sofa, put the duvet back on myself, and pass out.
Yeah.
And
we had to look it up because we couldn't remember September 2020. It was too long ago. We did get flu shots, but something just knocked him out. Wasn't COVID. We had plenty of tests for that. But
yeah, those are fun. Oh boy.
Those are uncomfortable. I do not like.
So yeah, I am officially on the mend. It unfortunately flared up something else which I've been dealing with for a little while, which is also now what I'm taking a spoonful of lovely, lovely drugs for every day. But it will hopefully die off fairly soon. And yeah.
I got one onion ring amongst my fries. I will eat the onion ring. I love onion rings. Like proper COVID test or those quick tests? We did both. Yeah, and they both came back negative. And we both took them. We both took both.
Both took both.
Okay. So yeah, that was the last week. We've showed you Chungus. How about I failed to push the button in time for my dramatic transformation. There we go. How about some shenanigans? So for this, I'm going to put the text in the chat for everybody, and then I'm going to step out and give Alasdair the screen.
And you're going to eat a donut.
Yes, I'm probably going to very quietly eat a donut in the background. Let's see how that works.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Exactly. There you go.
Do you not want your chair?
No, I can use to stand up for a while, but you may scooch it on up. Ow!
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't step on my foot, but scooch over the chair.
Toad's Profesh.
Toad's Profesh!
It's trapped on my foot.
Now you have to scooch your chair.
Hi.
This has become a comedy.
Right. Can't find your cursor because you're 18 miles of screen. Where's the cursor? Wisconsin!
Probably.
Home is where your little eldritch monsters are, by Mariana.
You don't have to read the summary or anything or the notes. You can read them afterwards.
Okay. It wasn't a big issue, as much as their current problems went, but it was an issue nonetheless. The tea didn't go away. Once it was done with its self-imposed task of scaring Martin, it seemed unsure how to cope with all the sudden attention it brought to itself. Scurried to the corner of the room and crouched, or at least gave the best impression of crouching while having no definitive shape. John went about his day studiously ignoring it, much the same way he ignored most everything lately. The howling outside, the visions in his mind, the ache in his heart. Martin, though. Martin was another thing entirely. He kept a wary eye on the thing while cleaning the remains of the cup from the floor, then proceeded to shoot it occasional glances as he shuffled around the room until finally he couldn't pretend to be busy any longer, and had to admit to himself that the small creature made him curious. When he approached, it pressed itself almost flat against the wall, as if cowering. Martin discovered that even when he was looking straight at it, he would be hard-pressed to describe its exact shape or colour. It was just a blob, a squiggle, a small impossible bend in reality that right now seemed to be frightened of him. He reached out his hand and made a soft beckoning noise, a habit created from feeding every stray cat in his old neighbourhood. He wondered, idly, what do little eldritch abominations eat? Do they eat little fears? Like a fear of losing your keys, or a vague worry about the weather on your upcoming birthday party? Well, if that was the case, then the little thing will starve. There was no place for this kind of small worries in this world, it seemed. There was only the terror. The endless, bone-crushing terror. Martin felt a pang at that thought, followed immediately by an "oh no" at the back of his mind. He was getting attached. Martin! There was a weary sigh behind him. John didn't say anything else, but he did it in a very pointed way. Martin considered it and then crossed his arms. Well, it doesn't look all that dangerous, you know, comparatively, and it is in our home. We can't just ignore it all the time. John looked like he wanted to argue, but he just didn't have the strength to do it. He just looked at the creature with a mute admonition and then shrugged and left the room, apparently resigned to let Martin do whatever he wanted. Martin won the little argument that wasn't, but somehow it felt like losing anyway. He looked at the small creature that in its anxiety turned itself into a shoe and made his lips form a smile. Come on now, let's get you somewhere more comfortable. Even though it was hard to tell with no night and day, the time still passed. In a sense, there was still a past they remembered and the future they awaited, if not dreaded. The little monster stayed. Tea? John asked incredulously. You named it Tea? Well, it used to be a tea, right? It's not like we could keep calling it it. Yeah, but... John looked pained. Eyes trained on the tea, now pretending to be a book, laying innocently on the table. Martin, do you honestly not mind? He shrugged. No, it's here now. So it doesn't surprise me that badly anymore. I don't think it even tries that much. I think it likes me. He poked the book with his finger and it immediately turned into a flower pot. Another poke, and now it was a lamp. Martin pushed the switch and lit up. They exchanged surprised looks. Ah. Martin stroked the tea gently. That's actually useful. It's just an illusion of the light, Martin. I'm really not in the mood to discuss philosophical differences between real and illusionary light right now. It's what we have, and so we will work with it, Martin said firmly, and John, shut up. They left the light on for a long time that day. It might have been an illusion, but it was a comfort in the darkness nonetheless. Martin, careful! John shouted out, but it was already too late. Martin tripped and lost his balance, and only John's quick reflexes saved him from falling down. What the... He looked to the floor where, as far as he knew, should be nothing except for an old rug. But now he looked more closely. Wasn't the wardrobe casting a somewhat odd shadow? He followed it with his gaze to the narrow space between the wall and the wardrobe itself, and he gasped. There was a darkness there, but it was a darkness that looked back. He swallowed. What is that? Pardon me, wrong accent. What is that? Who knows, replied John in a monotone voice. Another day, another monster. It will go away. Will it? Martin wondered, thinking about the tea perched comfortably on his shoulder, much to John's occasional exasperation. The little creature didn't seem to do much, except turning into random objects and up to scaring them and being, in Martin's opinion, adorable. And just like that, he thought, the monster behind the wardrobe didn't go away either. But it didn't get in their way, save for an occasional swipe at their ankles when they passed it. After one of the more successful attacks, Martin gave it a very stern talking to, and while he couldn't be sure, he felt like the trip your roast incidents grew further apart afterwards. What he was sure about was the quiet chuckle behind him as John watched Martin explain the concept of good manners to an eldritch abomination. And somehow, it made it worth it. It took some time, but at last John felt ready to leave the house. But instead of going on a mad chase to London to find their friends and kill Elias, first they went shopping. Small steps. The town was slowly recovering from the initial shock of the end of the world, and people were beginning to return to their usual tasks. Yes, the fears were roaming the world now, and the eye looked down from the sky, silent and oppressive. Someone had to milk the cows, someone had to change the infants' diapers, walk the dogs. The world might have ended, but life didn't stop. The shopkeepers started opening their businesses again so they could buy a couple of necessities, and to Martin's delight, the tea was among them. See, John, they're still here. Small comforts. It was on their way back to the house when Martin noticed it. He got better at the noticing as the time went on, as if the ability to see the reality's small inconsistencies was a muscle one could train. It wasn't the all-seeing power John had, just a very hard-won survival skill, knowledge of what to look out for. He was one of the Institute's people, after all. The thing he noticed looked like it looked like nothing he'd ever seen, but it was nothing new nowadays. But it resembled a cloud, a swarm of little dark orbs, maybe black dust specks. Kept floating and flowing in ever-changing shapes, almost like a flock of birds or a school of fish, and it followed John. He had noticed it too, judging by the small scowl on his face, the slight stiffness of his hand in Martin's. But he said nothing, and so Martin did too. Sometimes the cloud would fly above their heads, and sometimes it would hide in the bushes along the way, seemingly not caring that all greenery it touched wilted and died. The tea, who went with them in Martin's breast pocket, peeked out in what could only be described as curiosity if one were to ascribe emotions to the little monster at all. Which Martin did. The cloud took to sweeping between their legs as they walked, much like a pet demanding attention. For some reason, it was John who became its regular victims. After several cases of nearly falling over, he finally exploded. "Now listen here, you!" he shouted, and Martin noticed with surprise that the thing actually floated up to be at the same level as his face. "Will you behave? I am not falling face first into the dirt because of some ridiculous fallout of a vaping accident." Hearing John use the word vaping was so unexpected that Martin let out a laugh, and he had to bite his lip when John turned a thunderous gaze towards him. But these were more emotions than he'd seen in him in days, so he refused to feel bad. The creature floated in a circle above their heads as if considering, and then complied by perching around John's shoulders like an ephemeral boa. "Oh, for the love of—" John grumbled, but started walking again anyway. They reached their house, and just as Martin reached for the handle to open the door, John's hand shot out to stop him. He looked at John, then at the door again, and... "Oh, right," he sighed. John cleared his throat very loudly and pointedly, and the door didn't change in any perceivable way, except for the fact that it didn't lead to a dimension of certain doom anymore. When they entered, something scurried across the floor and out of their sight, and Martin took a moment to wonder what on earth that was. Their friend from the wardrobe, maybe, taking advantage of their absence to wander around the house, or some new visitor altogether. Speaking of, the cloud detached itself from John and flew up eagerly, made a sweep around the room, cheerfully killing the plant Martin bought in times before the apocalypse, and since he didn't really remember to water it anyway, he considered it a mercy kill. Then the thing curled up on the sofa, looking for all intents and purposes like an unusually satisfied cat. Martin did what he has done a lot recently, which was to accept it in stride. "We have a new friend, I guess." "They are not our friends, Martin. They're dangerous. We can't afford to take in every stray that we come across." "Well, it's not like they cost us anything." Martin crossed his arms. "I think it's good for them to have each other's company, you know. The tea plays with Babadook upstairs sometimes." There was a beat then. "You named the thing behind our wardrobe." Yeah, you know what? Of course you did." And Martin, who could plainly hear the fondness in John's voice, didn't feel silly at all. John sighed then. I worry they will hurt you," he said quietly. "They hadn't, so far." Martin smiled gently. "And animals or other people could hurt us too. Happens, John. We just have to be prepared to deal with that. But they're monsters. What does that matter anymore?" And John went quiet after that, so perhaps he didn't know the answer as well as he thought he did, just once. He went to the sofa and stared down at the unmoving creature that tried to adopt itself into their own. After a few seconds, he reached out probingly, and it appeared to be made of enough solid mass to make petting possible. Martin kept silent, and John kept brushing his hand over the mass of dark, glittering specks. Then, finally, he cleared his throat. "So, what should we call this one, then?" And there was an honest-to-God real smile on his face. It was small, and it was fragile, but it was there, and Martin beamed back at him. "Adopt all the monsters, lads." There would come a day when they'd smile freely again. There had to. With each small step like this, that day came a little closer. They named the cloud the Marshal, in honour of the cat that was hopefully safe and happy somewhere out there, and in hopes that the two of them would get along if they ever met. And that was how Martin came to find John one morning, with two little monsters sprawled all over him and the third lurking in the nearby shadows. The Marshal was laid out on his lap. The tea was curled in the nook between his throat and his shoulder, and the Babadook was peeking out from underneath the sofa the rest of them were on. And John was reading a book to them. It was surreal to see him like this, in Martin's too big sweater with hair slipping out of his bun, the morning light painting soft angles on his face. But the thing that gripped his heart and made him choke up was John's voice, steady and strong, rising and falling with whatever was happening in the book. It had been so long since John sounded anything but beaten and resigned. His occasional smiles and small laughs were something Martin treasured, for how rare they were, but here, now, he almost sounded like before. Martin would never push John if John decided that he wouldn't read anything out loud ever again. But here John was, trying it on his own, attempting to move past all the horrors that had happened to him, using his voice for something soft. He finally noticed Martin standing in the doorway, and his cheeks went red so fast Martin worried about his blood pressure. I was trying to, he floundered. Martin took pity on him. Shall I just start breakfast then? Yes, thank you. John replied, relieved. I was actually planning to do it myself today, but he stopped, the blush now reaching up to his ears. But the marshal fell asleep on my lap and I can't move, he mumbled, embarrassed all the more for the fact that they weren't sure if their little monsters could even fall asleep. For all John knew, the marshal was just too lazy and too comfortable to move. And Martin couldn't help but laugh at that. Of course John couldn't get up then. Of course. And if they still lived in a world where a person couldn't move because their pet fell asleep on their lap, then not everything was lost after all. Isn't that lovely?
You want to read the notes at the top now?
Summary. Martin reached out his hand and made a soft beckoning noise, a habit born from feeding every stray cat in his old neighbourhood. He wondered idly, what do little eldritch abominations eat? Do they eat little fears, like fear of losing your keys, or a vague worry about the weather on your upcoming birthday party? Well, if that was the case, then the little thing will starve. There was no place without that kind of small worries in this world, it seemed. There was only endless, bone-crushing terror. Martin felt a pang at that thought, followed immediately by an, oh no, at the back of his mind. He was getting attached. Notes. Okay, full disclosure. I wrote it right after the trailer dropped, so right now, after the first episode, it has some world-building inconsistencies, like the existence of the night and day, or sleep, or a town with people, all obvious things that could predictably go against canon when I wrote it, you know. I considered rewriting it to fit in with whatever is happening in TMA right now, but decided against it because A, I'm a fic writer and I do what I want, and B, I have no idea what is happening in TMA right now, and I love it. Also, one more TMA fic, and maybe I'll be able to spell Eldritch at the first try.
That's really lovely.
It's lovely.
I really liked that. Also, we should probably say thank you to our fan art at the top here.
Massive thanks to our...
From Theo.
From Come Over On.
Yeah, Theo. Yep.
Fantastic. Massive thanks to Theo for our amazing fan art at the top. And thanks to all of you for listening. It's really good to be back.
Do you want to let folks know where we'll be this coming week?
Yeah.
Because we have something fun, don't we?
We do.
Well, tell everybody where we'll be on Sunday.
On Sunday, we'll be trying to stop World War Zero with the council.
That's correct. And then what's happening next week? Remember? We have a special guest.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
We're going to try and teach Alexander J. Newell how to be a real boy next week.
Next week's special guest is Alexander Newell. Yes. And he will be coming on and we'll discuss stuff. It's not going to be Magnus specific, is it?
Yeah, that's kind of specifically what we're going to try and do is we want to talk to Alex as a friend and a creator and, you know, separate from all of his work at Rusty Quill. Because we all know what he does at Rusty Quill. And there's been so many...
The monster lad.
Yeah, exactly. There's been so many Q&As and talking about his gaming and, you know, and with the conclusion of Magnus. So this is more of a, you know, who is Alex as a person? He's convinced he doesn't have an identity outside of Rusty Quill. We might make him take like a Cosmo quiz or something. We're not sure what we're going to do, but we're going to steer away from the Rusty Quill stuff and just talk to another fun, cool creator that we like hanging out with. Maybe we'll give him crap about the bad horror movies he likes. I mean, the two of you could spend hours talking about that. But yeah, we will have Alex next week. We're going to probably not take audience questions.
What a beautiful description. Part-time nightmare merchant, full-time sweetheart.
Yeah, we want to concentrate on the full-time sweetheart part of things. Haven't figured out what we're going to do about questions. We'll probably screen them like we did with Johnny. just because we want to make sure we're talking about non-Magnus stuff, and because the chat may be a little thick and fast, and we want to make it easier on the moderators.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in the coming couple of days. But yeah, Chungus has a very special outfit for Alex joining us next week. Thank you, Wendy. And yeah, Alasdair and Alex are just gonna hang out and dork about stuff. I think you should make them take a Cosmo quiz.
Yeah.
Something fun, something, talk about how you relax, talk about how you recharge your creative batteries, by not working, those things that you both need to practice, that kind of thing. So that'll be next week.
Yeah, all of that.
Love you.
Love you too. So yeah, that's going to be a ton of fun. Really, really looking forward to having him on. And then we'll be back the Sunday after that with Crimes.
Yeah. Gotta think about the crimes that we're going to come back to. So, any final thoughts about anything? Stream show notes to follow on Twitter with all the fabulous Premee books.
Yeah.
Book links. Please do buy her books. They're wonderful. Just maybe don't read them right before you go to sleep.
Because then they will get you.
They will get you. And I think that's everything.
And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. It is so great to be back.
And we'll see you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday.